we need more inspiration for our youth. I think the problems of tomorrow are going to be the biggest problems that we as a global society have ever faced. And there's no telling how many kids in the past have just not been shown what was possible, and how many careers were not picked up as a result. And so it's important, I think, to show them what's possible.
So welcome to another episode of the Student Experience Podcast. My name is Jonathan, and I am your host. Today, we are speaking with an assistant professor from the Harding University in the United States of America. Dr. J, you're welcome.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks for having me on the show today. I appreciate it.
It's fine. So, Dr. Joe, could you kindly give us a brief introduction about yourself, and then we will take it from there.
Yeah, so great to be here. My name's Joe Faith. I'm an assistant professor of computer science at Harding University, and I lead our AI program, which we launched this last fall. And I have my doctorate in engineering from George Washington University, which is in Washington, D.C., which is in engineering, specifically AI and machine learning. And yeah, been a professor for 6 years and love it and happy to be here.
Yeah. So, from your experience as an assistant professor, what truly defines student success beyond grades or academics?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to student success, it's a pretty big question. I think we classically in STEM fields would really hang our hats on, quantitatively, how well do we do, what our scores are. But, once you get out in the workforce, it's a lot more common to see other things start to crop up. Willingness to learn, ability to adapt and retool, how well are you able to communicate with others? I think that's another big one. And so, what I would say is for students, you know, oftentimes we maybe focus on just one of those areas when really while you're a student, it's a good time to really focus on making, and it's really the whole point of education, right? Is to make the whole person, right? Make a well-rounded individual. So I would say student success is more than just the academic grades. It's kind of all those things pieced together.
And how can students stay motivated when they feel stuck or overwhelmed?
Yeah, and motivation, yeah, we are creative. I think by default we're creative creatures, but it's tough to be motivated all the time. I think that definitely comes and goes. And so for students, I think it's important to one, not put too much pressure on yourself, and two, have attainable goals. I think it's very easy if you look at the end point of where you want to be and then where you are now, that can be very disheartening sometimes. And so I think having small goals that are easy to meet is good. It kind of gives you kind of reward hack a little bit there. And also, I think it's important to take structured breaks. Oftentimes when you take a break from something, you come back and you're very motivated, and you have lots of great ideas about how to tackle it. A lot of times people talk about, the great thinkers back through history. What's a common quality that they all had, and people who have been able to achieve great things, think through deep problems. It's not necessarily raw processing power. It's that ability to sit with a problem for a while and kind of mull it over and then come up with a good solution. So I would say, yeah, don't rush, take breaks, break things up. And I think that can help if you're feeling stuck.
And in today's world, what do employers look for that students often overlook?
Well, and it's interesting because I think, yeah, like 15 years ago, if you had, an engineering computer science degree, hey man, you're ready to go. We'll hire you. And now I think it's a lot more so looking at, well, what are the other things you've done? What are the clubs you've been a part of? What's the internships you've had? What's the projects you've done? So looking at those kind of things, um, and trying to figure out, what makes you stand out compared to others. So, at least in like programming contexts or like computer science contexts, I'm very big on my students using GitHub and tackling projects and doing those things to help themselves stand out. And so, and I even saw a report about this earlier this week that talks about companies moving towards, more non-traditional ways of screening candidates because we've had, the resume being kind of the golden standard for so long, but with AI, everybody's kind of just padding their resumes up and it's a lot more beneficial to see the projects they've done or to do like a video call with them. So I think it's the game is changing for sure, and it's important to kind of keep pace with that.
And what's one message you want every student listening to this episode of our podcast to hear or to remember?
Yeah, well, I think to not give up on what you really want to do. I think, I've seen it countless times. Students um, kind of have a bad experience, in a class, and it happened to me. And I kind of took a non-traditional route to get into engineering and doing those things. But I think, it's very easy to have a negative experience and then feel like you can't do something. And so what I would say is, hey, even if you have a bad experience, don't let that discourage you and don't let it make you feel like you can't do something. Oftentimes, I think there's a big pressure put on in individuals in their coursework, and sometimes you may just have a bad experience with a professor or something, and that kind of makes you feel like you can't do something. But oftentimes that's not the case. It's just hey, sometimes you just gotta kind of stick with it for a little bit longer. So I would say stick with it, and if it's something you enjoy doing, don't let a negative experience tell you otherwise.